So some housekeeping for this info webinar. Everyone is in mute. Everyone can use the chat, but we ask that we keep the chat to questions. Actually, Sinclair, is there a question and answer box that folks should use?
Yes, actually, so for the chat, you can just use it to introduce yourself and say where you're located, and then there is a Q&A feature. Okay, the chat is disabled. I'll fix that. And you all are using the Q&A feature. Thank you. So that's what you can use to ask questions throughout the webinar.
Great, thank you so much. So we'll get started. Thank you so much, everyone. My name is Elizabeth. I'm a presenter, and with me is my colleague Sinclair, who they will be doing some of the Zoom behind the scenes, managing the question and answer box with me. So again, welcome to the Solís Policy Institute Local Informational Webinar. This is for the class of 2026, and we'll get started. So our agenda for today is the who we are, our approach, information about the Solís Policy Institute, history, our social justice framework, key info, and the application process, as well as time for question and answer. And then my name is Elizabeth Ayala. I'm a senior program manager here at the Women's Foundation California. I'm one of the lead facilitators for Solís Policy Institute Fellowship, most focused on Solís Policy Institute Local, but also do the state program. And my pronouns are she, her. I'm also an alum of the first ever Solís Policy Institute Local program, which was 10 years ago already. So thank you everyone for joining. Please again remember to use the question and answer box if there's a question you'd like to pose, and I'll move ahead. So information about Women's Foundation California. We are a statewide, publicly supported foundation. We dedicate ourselves to achieving racial, economic, and gender justice by centering the experience and expertise of communities most impacted by systemic injustice. And so Women's Foundation California was started in 1979. So we have an over 40-year track record, and we do both some selective grant making for gender justice causes and the Solís Policy Institute. And we believe those affected by gender injustice include cisgender and transgender women, genderqueer, gender variant, and non-binary individuals, and trans men. And so this is a core value of our foundation. So in corresponding with that, the Policy Institute welcomes applications and actually would love to have many applications from the trans and gender nonconforming community. So information about the Solís Policy Institute. The Solís Policy Institute is two different fellowships that train grassroots leaders in either local level or state level policy advocacy. The original Solís Fellowship began in 2003 with a focus on state policy, and SPI Local launched in 2015. Oh, that's 11 years now. And the SPI Alum Network is nearly 700 alums. And we originally began as Women's Policy Institute, and then were renamed Solís Policy Institute in honor of Dr. Beatriz Maria Solís and in partnership with the California Endowment. So that's intro information about the Solís Policy Institute. And some of the info we want to share is our social justice framework, that those closest to the problem are in the best position to name the solution. We also want our training focused on how to get new legislation and policy passed by those who are closest to the community, and to increase the number of people impacted by gender injustice that are involved in the policy arena. So again, our social justice framework is focused on getting those of us closest to the community to understand, navigate, and win in the current system. So SBI curriculum has an explicitly anti-racist lens. And again, the gender justice lens of the foundation uplifts the experience and needs of the TGI community. And the foundation upholds policies that prohibit anti-Blackness, racism, transphobia, harassment, and other forms of discrimination. And we do that, we hope, in community with all of our partners, all of our fellows, and are always in conversation about how to improve said policies. So our track record is, I'm really proud of our track record. 76% of alums surveyed are still engaged in policy advocacy after the fellowship. The majority of our fellows report gaining greater confidence and knowledge as a result of their experience. And for example, SBI state teams have successfully passed over 56 bills into California law, and we've had almost a dozen different policy changes, over a dozen policy changes at the local government level as well. And so, to explain a little bit about our guiding principles for the Solís Policy Institute, we have one, the experiential learning. So, you come and you learn about real issues with real people, such as elected officials, staffers, advocates, lobbyists, and based on your real experience as experts in your community. We focus on individual leadership development, which means stretching you, increase self-awareness, eliminating self-limiting thoughts and behavior, and building skills in the info about how the system works. But in conjunction with that, there's also team skills development, the ability to collaborate, navigate differences, and negotiate solutions. Particularly in the Solís Policy Institute Local program, we have found that coalitions, collaboration, working with other community partners is key, and that's why you will apply as an individual but be placed into a team under the issue area you apply under. And then cross movement building. So that's why we have multiple issue areas in the same cohort, allowing for cross issue engagement, discussions, and impact. So these are the four key components of the Policy Institute. And so for the Solís Policy Institute local scope, we are just, and make sure everyone's clear, the class of 2026 will be recruiting exclusively from Los Angeles County, and that can count as whether your work covers people, community issues in LA County, maybe you live in Orange County, or you live in LA County, one of the two. The issue areas you can apply under is community health, criminal justice reform, housing security, or TGI wellness and justice, with TGI standing for transgender, gender nonconforming, and gender variant and intersex community issues. So those are the four issue areas you can apply under. In the application, you're welcome to indicate if there's a second issue you would want to be considered for, but we do ask you to pick one primary issue area that you apply under. So the SPI local structure, again, we're going to have a mix of virtual and in-person programming. So we're going to have 2 overnight in-person retreats. All of the dates are available already on our website, as well as in the application portal reference. There will be 2 overnight in-person retreats. There will be 6 mandatory seminars. 1 is all day in person and 5 are virtual days. Please note that for the days we have in-person programming, there won't be a virtual option for the if you can't come in person to like dial in. So between the training events that you get of SPI, we expect teams or fellows to meet as a team, to conduct research, to meet with local government stakeholders between the beginning of the fellowship of June through the end of fellowship of in the end of the year. In addition, another structure is that you will be in regular communication with us foundation staff, and that the SPI staff, as well as an individual mentor for each team, will meet with your team throughout the fellowship to give you advice, to check in on how you're doing. So these are the SPI local dates for the class of 2026. Again, you don't have to, of course, know these by heart, but they are referenced in the website. And they are referenced as well as in our application. We will begin with the mandatory orientation seminar in June. There is a multi-day retreat at the end of June, and then a multi-day retreat at the mid-November. And between those dates are a bunch of day seminars. And all of these events will take place within LA County. And all of these we'll talk a little bit about the logistics in a moment. So we also want to share in recognition of the fact that we want to maintain a healthy space and a healthy environment for all of us, staff and fellows and guests. We do have protocols and the post-COVID-19 era. So there will be testing for COVID with self-administered home kits, test kits, where that will be required daily when we're in person, with reporting of results to the foundation when we're doing in-person training events. We will have PPE or personal protection equipment provided, such as face masks, etc., and they're strongly encouraged. All protocols for personal and community health and safety are subject to change. We do pay close attention to what is happening in LA County, as well as the advice or directives from the Department of Public Health. So the cost of the fellowship. The fellowship is offered at no cost to you or to your organization. For the in-person programming, you will be reimbursed for travel, such as mileage to the retreat, or maybe a lift if you live nearby. You will receive a single occupancy hotel room at the overnight retreats. And most meals will be provided during the events, and a select few will be reimbursed. Also, something to note and something we're really proud of is that fellows may request childcare and attendant care stipends for any day of training. More details can be provided to fellows who are selected, but that's part of our commitment to make sure that we serve community leaders most close to the community. Participant requirements. Before I go there, are there any questions in the Q&A box that I should attend to?
We don't have any questions as of yet. If something is occurring to participants, please use the Q&A feature.
Thank you so much. So the participant requirements, so one is full support of your employer. Part of this is because you need to make a commitment to attend all training events. In addition, you should expect to average about 24 hours of additional time a month to team meetings and the work of the fellowship, right? This is an experiential training program, so you will learn and you will do. So this will require time during the 9 to 5 work week. And then a willingness to bring back what you have learned in the SPI program back to your community or organization. We hope and we expect to invest in you as well as your wider organization and network. And a willingness to engage in the alumni network after your year of training. And daily communications during the work week. So, in case there's something that the foundation needs or correspondence between your team. So again, the issue areas are community health, criminal justice reform, housing security, transgender, genderqueer, and intersex wellness and justice. And information about the application. So the class of 2026, again, is recruiting individual applicants from LA County. Please read the website and FAQ thoroughly before applying. Answer questions about yourself. So the application will ask you to answer questions about yourself, your sponsoring organization, and a few narrative questions. And so the majority of our fellows are typically employed by a nonprofit, but we have had a couple of exceptions where someone is maybe a part-time person for their sponsoring nonprofit, and then they have another gig. So read through our FAQ, please, because we do have a question that addresses that. Because in addition to being, we hope, connected to a community group where you can put into practice what you've learned, we are asking applicants to upload an applicant requirements agreement form where you sign and agree to, the requirements of the program, as well as another form signed by your employer. And in that case, it could be the supervisor that you report to or the executive director of your nonprofit. In some instances, we've had people who are the ED of their nonprofit, so you're welcome to have your board chair sign off on it. And so any other questions, again, go to the FAQ and the website or email us. We'll have the email that you can send a message or question to. And then if we have any interviews, they will be requested to be done in April. Not everyone who will eventually be selected will be interviewed. So please hold the dates for the Solís Policy Institute Local Fellowship until you hear a decision about the fellowship selection process. So some of the selection criteria, what we're looking for applicants in strong applicants. So demonstrating content knowledge in their issue area, talking to us about in their application how participating in the Institute will increase the advocacy work at your org and your network. a commitment to learning, to fully participating and being part of a team, and again, support of your employer. And that's the overall view of the info webinar. Um, we will be releasing one or two items on social media as well as a blog post of some of our alumni experiences if you would like to, if you keep an eye out for that. But with that, I will allow some time for questions or additional questions. I'll stop sharing my screen so that we can, or actually, I'll keep sharing my screen in case I need to go back to a slide.
And while people think of questions, I'm going to go ahead and launch a quick poll that's just going to ask you which issue area you would be most interested in.
Thank you, Sinclair. So yes, please, this is not a commitment, so please mark right now. Just we're trying to make sure we have an understanding of where we're doing outreach well and where we need to do more outreach. So thank you for marking what issue area you're most interested in. All right, thank you. That's really helpful to know. Again, this isn't a commitment. Of course, none of these responses are individualized, but thank you for letting us know. I'm going to go to the question and answer. And so the first question and answer that I'm going to go to is, do we need letters of recommendations? No, you do not. What we do is ask that you have the support of your supervisor or your organization. Um, in rare instances, we've had folks who are not, a full-time employee of the nonprofit that they work for or volunteer a lot for. But what is key is that you are tied to a community group, that the work that you're doing is going to be based on real life experience of yourself, of the folks you work with, as well as we hope our investment in you goes beyond to an investment in a wider community. So no letter of a recommendation needed at this time. Um, so the next question is, what if someone is still a student but working part-time at an organization, but will have support from my organization? So we do cover a little bit of this in the FAQ, but the short answer is we would need to hear from you about your ability to participate in the training events. Again, the dates and times are listed on the website. And so how will that match your schedule? Will you be able to do it? And then secondly, if you have support from your organization, then they could sign the form that's uh, for the supervisor. Hope that answered the question. Um, The next question is, if I have more of a beginner's knowledge of policy advocacy, would it still be recommended for me to apply? I'm interested in learning more in policy advocacy. Yes, this program is especially helpful for folks who are like advanced beginners, intermediate practitioners in local policy and advocacy. And so you definitely should apply. I hope you consider. We will do what our model again is, we'll do a training, for example, at the first retreat around social justice frameworks for policy advocacy, a primer on local government. And so this is definitely something you can do. Another question is, are there other opportunities to get involved at a more in-depth level, such as this with the Women's Foundation California, for those who do not currently work for nonprofit and likely would not be able to get approval for the weekday commitment from their employer? So I would say, please email us. I'll switch the slide so you can see our email at spiwomen'sfoundca.org. We don't have a structured, like a mass volunteering program, but we would love to talk to anyone who would like to be involved, whether it be in policy advocacy or learning about some of the public events that we do. Right now, the majority of our focus as the foundation is, again, grant making to gender justice organizations, as well as the Policy Institute for the two fellowships for adults, as well as a Solís Policy Institute youth program. But we're always open to having a conversation about what else we could collaborate with community from across the state.
And we do have one question that came in through the chat, which says, can you speak a little bit more about the structure of the workshop days and what they would entail?
Sure. So, generally, when we do in-person programming, we have uh, three sort of like focus. One is to give you some of the knowledge or tools to do local advocacy. So, like I mentioned, like what is a anti-racist framework for policy advocacy? What is the local government primer on like understanding what county does versus city? And so, an element of every event includes giving you knowledge and skills. Another element of every event is doing community building, whether it is within your team or and as well as across the class. We find that one of the benefits and also outcomes of the Solís Policy Institute is this cross movement building. And what's great about SPI Local is that this year we're focused exclusively on LA County. And so that's why we make sure that there's some community building element to every retreat so that folks can get to know each other. And then the third element that it depends on what point of the fellowship we're in is teamwork in terms of these are all the ideas we have. Which one do we want to focus on? Which one is, a good opportunity? Getting advice from the mentor that your team will be assigned. And so overall, for the Solis Policy Institute Local Fellowship, you will do a lot of learning. You will meet with stakeholders in the local community because your eventual goal is to create and pass a proclamation in your local government. So a proclamation will explain again further for those who are selected for the program is a value statement, a ceremonial document, or one of our teams in the past has done like Domestic Violence Awareness Month to try to foster more communication between the local government and the domestic violence shelters in the region. And so our goal is for you to learn and to do some practice that puts you into a relationship with local government that helps you create opportunities for future work or for future agenda items. And that way there's both learning, connection, and practice. And thank you. Just to reference in the chat that there will be four teams of four folks. So we're going to have 16 fellows altogether. And I don't think there's any other question. Again, if you look at the slide, the application deadline is March 25th at 10 a.m. If you have further questions that occur to you, please email us at spi@womensfoundca.org. And a recording of this webinar will be sent to everyone who registered. All
Right.
right.
We were going to say the same thing. Thank you, everybody, for joining. You'll get the recording via email, and we hope to read more materials from you. Have a great day.